Hi, I just wanted to share a little 2-day trip that my husband and I recently went on Friday. This past Friday and Saturday, we went on an overnight bike trip, dirt bike trip from the desert up towards Claraville, California. So it was back roads, and one was a hairy, sandy road. um, I had it in my mind after our dirt bikes got serviced that I wanted to go ahead and ride it, and I wanted to do an overnight trip just using our bikes and whatever we could carry. It's a good practice in survival, although we're not hiking, we were riding, but whatever we were going to be using for camping and eating and drinking, we were going to carry ourselves. And so it was just sort of like a test and an outing for my husband and I to do together. So I wanted to share a little bit about our adventure. We started here at a DWP yard in Mojave at Jawbone Station, which is one of the recreational areas for ATVs. And we here's me and my bike, my Yamaha. Now, in my backpack, I have everything except the water, and my jacket's here, and my sleeping bag's here. But I have my air mattress that's 1.3 pounds, and then my food, sunscreen, wallet, and everything like that. My husband's bike, he has saddlebags here that I had bought, and they fit better on his bike because the plastic and they're not getting heated up anywhere by the bike. His sleeping bag's here, and then he's got the little 2-man tent that's 2 pounds. It was a cheap one. I bought it for this trip, and then he's got the water for our water in here, along with um, the bag, the little folding chair. So I got these actually for $60 each online on Amazon, and they're well worth it. See how it has a 5-star rating? $60 seems like a lot, but they're aircraft grade aluminum. They can hold up to 250 pounds. Actually, they were tested at 350 pounds, or 330 right here. But they don't recommend over 250. But they're super lightweight, and they only weigh 2 pounds, and the bag is about 14 by 4 by 3 inches. And so in the saddlebags here, he's got 1.5 liters of water, and that folding chair that's on each side of his bags. So each bag has a 1.5 liter and a folding chair, and then another 3/4 of a liter bottle of water. So the water is really heavy. Water is like 7 or 8 pounds per gallon. So he's got those in the bags along with the chairs, and then everything else is in our backpack. So the first day we left from the desert, and we drove up to this campground that was 5.6 miles up Paiute Mountain Road up towards Claraville. So we got into the pines. The road the road is a dirt road all the way up there, and there's cliff on one side and mountain on the other. And it started getting trafficy Friday night after we got up there and we found this campsite. We heard cars all the way till 2 in the morning. So my concern was there was going to be a lot of traffic on our way back down, and especially being on the right side next to the cliff, I didn't want people to edge us towards the side or anything. So I prayed that we would have no traffic on the way back down this road. It took us 20 minutes to get down. It was almost 6 miles. And God was good because not a single car came past us either way, or bike. Nobody passed us. And so that was a blessing. And then we made it back to where we started. The whole trip was about 60 miles, about 30 miles each way. So we rode 30 miles on Friday and then 30 miles on Saturday back to the yard where we left the truck. So here's our bikes parked at the campground. So I wanted to mention the things in a survival situation, the things that we discovered we needed and we didn't need. So we pretty much were right on cue with what we brought. Um, Definitely the number one thing we needed was water. Now we passed a few ponds and we did bring life straws. If this one's not even unwrapped right now, um, until I need to use it, but I did bring it because it's only a few ounces, and I had this in my backpack in case we ran out of water and we had to drink from a pond. Okay, but we had brought, about 4 or 5 liters of water total in the saddle bags, the side bags here. So we were good. We actually ended up with still having like a liter of water left. But we used water for cooking, cleaning, and for drinking. Drinking, especially on that Friday because it was hot going through the desert road getting there. We rode faster going back. So, but it took us 2 hours to go 30 miles home back to the yard. So it was we were driving about 15, 20 miles an hour. We had stopped to eat also. So I would say we were going about 20 miles an hour most of the ride because, again, it was on some sandy roads, and some were, a little bit hairy. Actually, on the road back, we rode back a different way, and the road that we rode back on, part of it was, hilly, like a mountain road, and the road would narrow at times. Sometimes it was wide, sometimes it was narrow, and on one of the narrow areas where it wrapped around a mountain, it had a big curve. After we passed the curve, we stopped to eat and pulled over on the side of the road and then sat on some rocks. But other people stopped to ask if we were okay. We said yes. We were just stopping to rest. But that was the same area, that hairy corner, that was partially paved and partially dirt and had big boulders on one side and a cliff on the other. Supposedly that night before, just hours before, there was a dirt bike rider that had wiped out on that corner at night. He had a light, but obviously he was going too fast and he didn't see how quickly or how sharp the corner was, and he crashed, and there was his med kit and everything else. There was just trash all over the ground, and they said that he got airlifted out. So, but the Lord was faithful to us because, yeah, I played it safe. I told my husband just yesterday, so I just told him Monday what my thought was on Saturday. This whole trip was my idea, but when we were here's the chairs. My thought was, I'm gonna have him. I was thinking I'll just have him ride back, get the truck, and then come back with the truck and pick me up, so I don't have to drive down this road, or on the sandy areas on the other roads, because it was a bit hairy at times. And but then when I prayed, and God was faithful to get us down here without any traffic, I just prayed that he would keep us safe and get us back without any harm, and he did. So God is good. Amen. So I just pushed through. I don't know if I mentioned it, the re-recording of this, but I haven't been on my bike since 2007 when one of my autistic son moved in front of me when I was going to pass him, and then our tires collided, and I was probably going about 40 miles an hour, and so I had to have leg surgery. So I haven't been back on that dirt bike or any motorcycle since then. I used to ride a street bike, and so it was traumatic, and I just didn't want to ride on it for a long time. So this was sort of pushing myself to get over the fear of being on it. The Lord kept us safe. He is faithful, and gave me the courage to go ahead and ride back down the mountain and back to where the truck was parked. But going back to what we used and what we didn't use, water was the number one thing that we used. I use sunscreen. Obviously, we use transportation. and chairs and a shelter, our tent and sleeping bag. For cooking, we usually use the campfire like with a grill over it, but this time we just took a it's a fold up sterno stove with a can of sterno cooking fuel. So we use this to heat up the water for our Folger coffee bags and oatmeal and food. So we had just a little mess kit pan that we used for the sterno stove, and we didn't really use any plates or anything. We brought stuff that we could just eat out of, like the oatmeal cup, or the dehydrated beef stew bag and so forth, and tuna salad that's already pre-made in a Mylar pouch that we could just squeeze onto the bread. So we did use food. We used a spork camping. We used our map of the area of the roads so that we wouldn't get lost. To light the sterno and the campfire, we used an axe. My husband had put our small, it's a small axe, and you can use the back of it like a hammer for the stakes for the tent, but he used this to chop up deadfall for the fire, and a lighter to light it. We brought a flashlight, but we didn't really use it. We didn't use a lantern or a flashlight. It was light enough, and we were in the tent before it got dark. We brought just one little pill bottle with multiple pills, ibuprofen and allergy pills and so forth in it. So he used allergy pills, and we both used ibuprofen at one time. And then I used essential oil because on the sterno, I went to pick up the pan, and you can't see, but this finger has a little red line, and then this finger, and then my thumb, the three fingers, I went to pick it up and it was hot, but you can see a little red line on the pointer finger, but it never blistered. I used lavender oil, so I had brought 3 oils. I brought peppermint, just for stomach or headaches, and lavender, which is great for burns. I had a thought to bring lavender, and I think that was the Lord, because he knew that I was going to need it for my fingers, because it was stinging when I first did it, and lavender is just awesome for burns. It heals without having your skin peel off. And so it took the stinging away, like after a few minutes of putting it on there. So I had lavender oil, peppermint oil, and then a mix that I made for like sore muscles and pain. And so I used the one for the sore muscles and pain, and so did my husband. And I used the lavender. And then we used duct tape. Duct tape was for the tent because my husband I'm 5'4", he's 6'3", and the tent, when he stretched out, he ripped like a 14-inch straight rip at the base where his feet were. So we used the duct tape. I had some wrapped, like we'll take an old credit card or insurance card and cut it in half, and then wrap duct tape around it and put that in our backpack. And so I used my roll to repair the tent so that we didn't have like a snake slither in during the night and keep us company. So those are all the things that we used. We brought our wallet and IDs, but we didn't end up using those. We brought some cash in case we ran into a campground where we had to pay a fee, but we didn't have to use any cash. We had brought our own water, but actually we ran into a state park worker, and he asked us if we needed water, but we had like 4 or 5 liters he said, well, I just have a bunch of water in my cooler if you want one. So my husband said, oh, yeah, okay. He wanted a cold one, so they were all icy. They were nice and cold from the cooler, so he took two of the cold waters. So we got to enjoy that on our one of our breaks before we went up the hill. And we both had our pocket knives. I think my husband used it to cut a couple things, but for the most part, we didn't really have to use the pocket knives. And we brought our pistols and a couple of magazines, but of course we didn't have to shoot anything, and it was just in case, for defense or for animals, um, for defense. But so I carried that in my backpack, but I really didn't need to. But the best thing that I enjoyed was the air mattress. Um, it's only 1.3 pounds. It's light. It has a little built-in pump that you step on, and you keep stepping on it to pump it up. And my husband rolled on it in the morning when I got up out of bed. Here it is, and said, um, he goes, man, he goes, you've been sleeping on this all night, keeping it from me. So it was 35 bucks at Big Five when I bought it. Plus I had a $5 off coupon, so it was $30, and it was worth every penny. It's only 1.3 pounds, and it folds up into that little bag that I had in my backpack. So that was not necessarily a need. He slept with his sleeping bag just by itself, but it sure makes it nicer. So that was our excursion this past Friday and Saturday, and the Lord was with us, and it was fun. It was an outing that we did together, but it also was exciting, and I made it through the adventure. So God bless.